But I really don't have any regrets. I really don't. I've lived exactly how I've wanted to. I've tried my hardest every single time. I didn't win the matches that maybe I should have always won, but I really gave it my all. So that for me is enough.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm James.
And we are here to tell you, for some of you to revel in, some of you to be totally disgusted by, that we are in the midst of yet another Novak purple patch. If you followed the etymology of purple patch on this podcast, you should have seen your visceral reaction to that. You hit it so much.
I do.
I did it purposely.
Is it a colonizer term?
Possibly. I told you previously, however many moons ago, that I learned of it through cricket.
Okay. So the Brits who are listening will know what it is. Everyone else will find it horrible.
And previously, he was going through a blue patch earlier in the year when he couldn't string together any wins. Yes.
Uh-huh. The Novak train is back on the track, and this run is just stunning. Last year, we saw incredible runs by Roger and Rafa. They both won majors that year. They both touched number one. Rafa is still officially number one, but Novak is very, very hot on his heels. We've had a lot of streaks at the top of men's tennis recently.
Well, Rafa and Roger also have won this year. Mm-hmm. It feels like many lifetimes ago almost at this point. Novak has won his last 3 tournaments, including the US Open and 2 Masters 1000s. Going back a little further, he's won 4 or 5, with the only loss coming to Wunderkind Stefanos Tsitsipas in Toronto.
Right.
And with all those wins, he's now just a couple hundred points behind Rafa for year-end number 1. And we don't know if Rafa will be playing yet.
We don't. Novak has 0 points to defend going forward. Rafa has 180 points from the Paris indoors last year and none from the finals. So from where I'm sitting, it seems almost impossible that Novak will not achieve the year-end number 1 unless Rafa plays both the Paris indoors and the finals and has some good results at both.
What do you mean have some good results? He would have to outlast Novak.
Yes.
After being off tour since the US Open, retiring at the US Open, that seems like a mountain too high to climb even for Rafa.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, I don't think he's going to be playing Paris. I don't see any incentive for him to be playing Paris after all this time away to come back on his least favorite surface.
And Paris is really the forgotten Masters.
It's the one we've said we wanted to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. And I think almost everybody agrees that Paris is kind of the least revered of all the Masters tournaments. It just seems like an afterthought this late in the season. And I think it is important to have an indoor Masters if that's a genuine surface in this sport.
I've never understood why indoors and not grass. I know there's logistical considerations and having a venue that's big enough to host a week-long event like that, but from a historical perspective within tennis, to now be in 2018 and have Paris be there as kind of like a throw-in Masters at the end of the year that nobody cares about, but we still can't find time in the schedule or the wherewithal to have a Masters on grass when we're getting all these celebrity-infused exhibition group team events, new Davis Cup. Like the schedule is being littered all over the place with stuff that we don't want or need necessarily.
Well, some people want it.
But I feel like a lot of people would really want a grass Masters. Anyway, that's a tangent. But say Rafa doesn't play Paris. I don't think his mind is on number 1 at all at this point.
No.
I think if something means something to him at this point, to achieve the rest of the season, is to do well and win in London, because he's never done that before. I think that's more of an achievement for him to look forward to than keeping number 1.
Right.
Balancing his health.
I also think if the knees are still bothering him, the Australian Open is much more important than any of those things. He's been so close so many times that he really wants another one.
That's what Carlos Moya told us a couple weeks ago. Said that the goal is for Bercy. If not, then the year-end championships. And if not, the big goal. And the most important thing is to be healthy for Australia.
Right. And he retired in Australia this year. He pulled out of a ton of tournaments before that. His body clearly wasn't ready to be there. And I think training hard for these last two tournaments is going to imperil that again.
The matter at hand, we're going to go through the results from the last 2 weeks that we've missed since our last episode. But the spotlight is going to be squarely on Shanghai and Novak's blistering run to that title. Was unbroken in 47 service games. Now, Novak is vaunted as one of the all-time great returners. And if he's in that good a form, that means that he's breaking your serve left, right, and center. And if you throw in you not being able to break him at all over 5 matches, it's a foregone conclusion. Unless you're out here trying to beat Novak in tiebreaks.
And who wants that? Like, who can do that? It seems that Novak is really at home on fast surfaces. I think for a long time, the tennis world at large has discounted his prowess on very quick hard courts and grass. But now he's got, 4 Wimbledon titles? He's won on every surface, but like this Shanghai is supposedly the quickest of the Masters events.
He's out here like, who gonna hit through me, boo?
Clearly nobody, on this surface at least. He beat 4 top 20 players, including Cecchinato, who beat him at the French. A bit of revenge there. He beat Kevin Anderson, Sasha Zverev, who beat him at Rome last year. Sasha is one of the few people who has won a Masters tournament without dropping serve. It's a more rare achievement than you would think.
And Sasha Zverev got his butt whooped in that semifinal.
Maybe it's because he didn't use the towel enough. I realize that this Masters event didn't have maybe the most exciting matches of all of them this year, but the towel talk is just, it's boring me to tears.
Zverev said that for him it's not an issue because he never uses a towel.
We know this because he always lifts up his shirt and we have to look at his belly for the entire match. And it's annoying to me. With
Novak rising to the top of men's tennis again, he's up to number 2. He's supplanted Federer. He's playing like the world number 1 by a fairly good margin. With that being the new happening in men's tennis now, who is going to be the fella from the young crop to possibly break through and challenge whoever's rotating at the top of men's tennis?
Right.
Like, this is a question that we've been asking for a while, but I feel like we're closer than ever.
After
what happened today. But wait. I said we're going to get to that. So keep that in mind with Zverev, because he is arguably the most accomplished. Not arguably, he is the most accomplished of the younger guys. And we always, I know I do, think of him as being older than he is. He's younger than Borna Coric.
Younger than Dominic Thiem.
He's not even 22 years old yet. This result had to have been disappointing for him, because 6-2, 6-1 in 60 minutes, even against a Djokovic in good form, it's indoors.
Right.
Like this
in an hour.
It's not good.
It's not good. Borna Coric had a little bit more luck. He was broken twice, and that was that. I was surprised that Novak and Sasha matched up so poorly in that match. Is it just because Novak was so dominant?
The challenge with playing Novak when he's on for somebody like Zverev is the movement. I think still Novak is able to exploit that deficiency in Zverev's game.
Right.
Is there anything that Novak can't do on a tennis court? And then the question is...
We like to talk about the Djoko smash, but he makes them more often than he misses. So even the Djoko smash is a little bit overstated.
It was a rhetorical question. And then the following question was going to be, how many things can Sasha Zverev still not do on a tennis court? And the gap between the two is still sizable, even when they're playing at their best.
It is. But I don't really think it's a fair question, because we've been spoiled by this sort of mini generation of top male players who can do everything. And that's not really the history of men's tennis. Players like Bjorn Borg had an incredible backcourt game, didn't really volley. But someone like Rafa or Novak can do everything on the tennis court, can hit forehand volleys, backhand volleys, overheads. They can serve well enough, and in this case they can serve in dominant fashion like Novak did, and their return games are unparalleled. But
their bones are elastic.
previously in men's tennis, you didn't have to hit every single box to be the best. And so Sasha Zverev, what he does, he is very, very, very good at. But there's some deficiencies in his game, just like in Pete Sampras's game. He didn't have a huge backhand.
What are you trying to say here?
So I'm saying that maybe when Novak and Rafa and Roger are gone, that will be enough.
Sure.
Does it mean, like, does every generation in a sport make it better necessarily?
No,
Right.
you don't always push the needle forward.
Mm-hmm.
The 100-meter world record, while it continued to become better over time for a variety of reasons, there were decades where it was stagnant.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of given Zverev a free pass here, I think, in this instance.
Sure.
Because if we're looking at what we should expect from him at this point, given what we've seen before,
I think he's working really hard in the gym to try to gain endurance and get more fit. An issue with him is strength, I think, is like putting on weight. But I think we still have to understand that he is very young, and expecting him to challenge Djokovic when he's playing like this is just like nobody's doing it. Nobody's really getting close right now.
my question about Zverev, and I guess I should have saved this for the following segment, is does he have that much more to improve in terms of what he can do? Because we've seen Coric improve drastically this year. We've seen Tsitsipas come on leaps and bounds. Can Tsitsipas improve that much more? We don't know. How much does Zverev have left to improve that he can actually achieve, is what I'm saying.
I mean, you can point out the things that he needs to improve, but it remains to be seen if he actually can.
Yeah.
Like, maybe some people are just not natural volleyers, and that's all right. You have to find ways to basically make up for it.
Because for what he's achieved at this point in his career so young, you would think that the sky is still the limit.
Right.
And perhaps, as you say, I'm being unfair and too hard on him. But, you know, we shall see. I think what's happened is this week in particular has opened up the dialogue and the discourse for those who are interested in that kind of thing as to who really is the presumptive next. We'll get to that in a little bit, but this discussion is spurred on because of one Borna Coric.
Right. I have to say, I felt last season that he was kind of stagnating a bit. He had a big win over Sasha at the US Open last year, but I wondered like how high he could really go. I didn't know that he had enough kind of raw power to take him to the next level. And I think I've been proven roundly incorrect, which is great because I'm a fan of his game.
What did he achieve in Shanghai?
Well, first of all, he beat Roger Federer in the semifinals, breaking twice. It's his second win over Roger this year, actually. He beat him in the final in Halle, which is Roger's playground. He lost a close one to him at Indian Wells, and Roger went on to lose to Delpo there. Federer clearly wasn't at his best. There was some apocalyptic talk on Twitter about the R word, and I hate that stuff. I'm not even going to float that idea. Coric played well, and Roger played okay. I'm not amazing. Like, luckily for him, Roger's okay is better than most people's best.
He showed up for the first time since when?
The US Open.
And then made the semifinals of a Masters 1000.
Right.
Like, it's
Lost
not
to
the end of the world.
An up-and-comer who can do anything on his backhand. Watching some of these like backhand lobs, one of them hit the baseline, it's just so disrespectful.
Coric has a 2-2 record against both Federer and Nadal. He is just shy of turning 22. That's incredible. There's no other way to describe that. He's still 0-3 against Djokovic, and perhaps from a matchup perspective, that's going to be the one that'll be more difficult for him to solve.
Right, considering he said he wanted to be Djokovic. Like, he wants to play Djokovic's game, basically.
One of the caveats is that he did get a Rafa who was seriously diminished in Cincinnati a couple of years ago. That was kind of one-way traffic. When, you know, if they were both at their best, it may have been different. So perhaps luck has played a little bit in that equation. But if you look at any of these young guys, their initial head-to-heads against Federer and Nadal, it's not pretty.
No, except for Kyrgios. But Coric has shown that he can beat basically, well, almost anyone at the top. And I think he's got a lot more to show.
Did you mention Coric's new career high?
Number 13.
Number 13. That's really impressive. Now, I went through the top 50 rankings on the ATP Tour, and I'm here to tell you that there are 9 players who are 22 and younger in the top 50 on the ATP. That's pretty impressive. And it's not just guys out here having 1 or 2 results and, slipping in, and we don't really know who they are or if they have potential. Like, these are guys who, for the most part, have made a fair bit of noise over the last 2 years, and their trajectories are very much on the rise. So we've got Zverev, who is world number 4, 3, 5?
3.
What is he?
I feel like he's been
Federer's
switching with
3
Del
now.
Potro a few times.
So 4 or 5, and he's been in the top 5 for a while. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We've now got Coric, we've got Tsitsipas, we've got Daniil Medvedev. He just won in Tokyo, completely blitzing Kei Nishikori. Karen Khachanov, Denis Shapovalov, Young Chung, Alex de Minaur, and Francis Tiafoe. The one who is absolutely overlooked in that bunch is Francis Tiafoe.
You think so?
Yeah, because how many people actually know that he's top 50?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because it's part of the equation here that you have to be ranked high enough to be then considered. I feel like people think of him as, there's that American guy. Yeah, there's this young black American guy he's definitely the best of the young black American guys, but I don't really know where exactly he is right now.
I don't know if he's playing challengers or main draws.
I think he had that cute win against Zverev in Cincinnati last year. That's a guy, right? And you're not quite sure who the guy is. He may have had that story, like his dad was a janitor or something. Like you have little bits and pieces of Tiafoe's story, but lo and behold, he's snuck up into the top 50, and he's kind of on the cusp of arriving. He's one quarterfinal run in Australia away from being there.
Okay. So you're asking which of that group is going to assert themselves as a top player?
Not only that, but which ones potentially have the staying power to be the stars of the next generation. Of their next generation,
right.
This hashtag NextGen.
So a lot of these guys are also in the NextGen rankings. Zverev is leading the NextGen again. I don't think he'll go to the NextGen finals because he's a top 5 player on the ATP Tour.
It's like when Oprah took her name out of the running for the Emmys because she'd won so much, right?
Right. But I think of those, I am surprised at how fast Tsitsipas has come on. And I think he has a lot more staying power and more pace behind his shots than I thought. I thought it was a little more touch and not enough power to break through in a real way. But he is.
He has.
He has broken through. Yeah. Top 15.
He has those things, and he has broken through.
Right. Denis Shapovalov is definitely a popular pick. I'm still going to hold on Denis.
Why?
There's a lot of potential, but I think that he needs time and he needs to get out of Canada.
He lives in the Bahamas. That's where he lives in this.
Fair.
Same with Bouchard.
But the Canadian media, you know how they can be. And I think people are inclined to baby him a little bit too much.
I think he exists outside of just Canadian media at this point. But to your point, we saw it a lot with folks on the ground in Cincinnati. These anecdotal stories about Shapovalov with respect to, in particular, the umpire blinding incident and whatever like this. So many people... He's
not blind.
Well, yes, but so many people wanted to like, oh my God, I felt so bad for him. I just wanted to hug him. Like, it was almost like I want to like stroke his back and tell him everything's going to be okay. Make sure he has his pajamas on, brushes his teeth, and goes to bed.
Yeah. I was surprised that I heard people say... people just yammer on about this umpire incident. And I'm like, I literally have not heard about it in like a year. And it only happened like a year and a half ago. It's amazing how quickly it disappeared. I'm not saying that we should go on and on about it. I was just surprised.
Yeah,
that's the perception.
He's one of those guys who absolutely gives his best in press. And I think that is part of it as well. We've seen it time and time again where perspectives towards players are muddied, are changed one way or the other based on how much they give in press.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the infatuation with Denis. It's the blonde hair, it's the blue eyes, it's the visuals of his game, which are very exciting, but it's also the contrition after the incident and how much he gives of himself.
Right. I mean, he comes off as like a genuine bro. Like he's a dude, you know? It seems authentic because it's so unpolished.
Anyway,
that's not about tennis. That's about
that's
personal
that's your
feelings.
personal bias.
Yes. I could see Khachanov like settling into maybe a Berdych role, which is great. Like
Yeah.
that's a really good career.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see him being a slam winner.
I wonder if marriage works, #marriage works, has peaked for him too soon. And the fact that he got married at 19 means that his career is going to fall to shit
Well, now he just has to have
by
a baby.
22, 23. You know, like you need to keep the kid at bay because otherwise your 20s are just going to be a shit show.
What are you talking about? After Andy and Stan and Roger had babies,
I understand.
like they are reaping the
well,
benefits.
yes, but if you have that happen too soon, then you're over that by like 24, 25, and then what? Hyun Chung has backtracked, regressed since being out with injury. It was terrible timing for him to get injured after the fast start to the year that he had. And he's not done well in the last 7 months or so.
No, I mean, I think he's only recently back healthy. Like in the last few tournaments he's actually back. So it'll take some time.
Diminar, I don't know the full extent of Diminar's game to be able to say one way or the other. I want to know, how does somebody so slight become great for an extended period of time?
This is exactly what I don't understand.
He doesn't make sense to me.
Like, how does someone so small unleash that much power on the forehand? Is it all timing? Is it all torque?
Ask
it's
Camilla
technique?
Giorgi.
Well, exactly.
Okay, so tell me what's going on here. Who's going to do what in their careers? Who do you pick?
Well, of those, the first three, Coric, Zverev, and Tsitsipas.
That is such a cop-out.
Well, that's what I think.
For me, I think, and I've kind of always felt that Zverev's potential has been overstated. That it's been kind of blinded by how quickly it happened. And the fact that that hasn't happened over the course of the last decade or so, to have somebody so young play so well, do it, made people think like, well, damn. You know, I definitely feel like there's going to be a stalling period going forward. And he'll have to do what Coric did over the last year to overcome the regression. This is, again, I accept that this is unfair to Zverev because he hasn't really regressed. He just hasn't performed to the potential that we think he has, that he's commonly held to have, right?
Well, there's winning in Rome without dropping serve once, and then there's losing in the third round of slams.
But my point is, Coric had made these strides, beaten these top players, and then had a pretty bad 12 months. And had to really dedicate himself in a new way to his game and to improving to then be up to number 13 right now. So I'm going to pass on Zverev, and I'm going to go with Coric, absolutely Coric. I'm going to go with Medvedev, and I'm going to go with Chung still.
All right.
Provided Chung can stay healthy, I love what I see in his game. But back to Borna Coric. Borna Coric is at this point in his career where should he win a slam or continue his rise in the short future, he could dominate the world. He could rule the world, specifically the gay world.
He's already kind of ruling the gay world.
No, but this is like total domination. Like, is there anything this man cannot do? Any look he cannot give? Any flirtation he will not participate in? He has so many things going for him.
He gets it.
Yeah.
He gets that he's hot. He does a little tongue-in-cheek thing with it, but he's not like cocky about it.
With women, with men, he is not a dick. He doesn't seem to be a dick. I mean, there's always room for men to show their asses. I mean, that's always lurking around the corner. But to this point, he's seemed to got the total package, all of the packages. And he's getting ready to deliver them.
Okay. Are you imagining him in like a UPS uniform? Is that where that was going?
Maybe Nike could take some pointers for his kits next year.
Stop putting him in gray. What is that?
Also, like, you have, in truth now, a burgeoning superstar. Get him out of the generic stuff.
Yeah.
Like that tie-dye crap, it's no, absolutely not.
Let's talk about some of the other results we missed in these past 2 weeks.
Quickly. Let's do this quickly.
Okay.
We did Shanghai, so you know Novak Djokovic beat Borna Coric 6-3, 6-4.
Basilashvili won Beijing. He also won Hamburg this summer, which is a 500. He beat Delpo in the final of Beijing, reaching number 23, which is a career high. He also had a great result at the US Open.
It was one of the matches of the tournament.
Yeah.
And also, he continues to wear one of the best kits of the year. You know, I've talked about this, my partiality to black and white kits, and his is one of the best. And he wears it well.
Medvedev, who we mentioned earlier, won Tokyo by beating Nishikori quite convincingly. You have here, does Medvedev have the ugliest game in tennis? I don't think so. It's unconventional. I watched him play Borna Coric, actually, in Cincinnati, and quite enjoyed it in person. There's a lot of slice forehands. And
I guess that question was posited incorrectly. Are his strokes the ugliest strokes in tennis?
They're interesting.
They're horrendous.
No, to me, Genie Bouchard's are the ugliest in tennis.
Sure.
Sorry.
Fine. Sure. Who can argue with that?
But really, it doesn't matter if your strokes are pretty or not. If you're winning, it's fine.
And we've railed against the folks who champion Federer as being the greatest simply on the strength of the aesthetics of his strokes.
Right.
This is very disingenuous of me to be saying this.
Hypocritical, even.
Yeah, absolutely. But sitting there watching that final, I was at a loss for words.
In Hong Kong, so Wang Chong makes another final, has totally torn up this Asian swing.
Is there a semifinal she cannot reach?
Apparently not. But she lost easily to Diana Yastremska. Watching that match, holy hell. That girl, Yastremska, just stood on the baseline, was not to be pushed back, and just like unfurled winner after winner. These returns were absolutely demolished. I always say that watching power and watching someone take the ball early like that there's just something mesmerizing about it, and that's a good example of it. She displayed no fear at all.
So you're saying it's Yastremska and Sabalenka who will rule the world in 2019?
I don't know. You know, when you do hit that flat and that hard, there's a lot of margin, or there's not much margin for error, like we see with Madison Keys, for example. When things
there's a lot of margin for errors.
But when things go wrong, they can go very wrong. But watching this final in Hong Kong was just so impressive.
For one's part, she beat both Muguruza and Svitolina in the same event, beating Muguruza 7-5 in the third set in the semifinal.
That was a great match, too. Garbiñe has really come to play. She did put in a good performance in Hong Kong, and I feel like maybe she's on a bit of an upswing. I think the coaching situation is still a bit of an issue.
We're just going to have to let that slide.
Yeah,
and
because there's nothing we can do about it.
No. It's one of the topics that gets so much kerfuffle. You know?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about Sam Sumik and Garbi Muguruza, but really.
It's just uncomfortable.
Sure.
And everybody can feel that.
She's a grown woman.
She is.
She can fire his ass anytime she wants. So let her be. In Linz, Camila Giorgi beats Alexandrova 6-3, 6-1 for the second title of her career. And just like that, she's up to a career high, number 28. Camila Giorgi, seeded at the Australian Open.
Oh, Lord. Do we know that?
I mean, she's 28 now. It's only going to get better.
Oh, dear.
You know what? For whatever has happened in her past, whatever culpability she shares and holds for that, however disrespectful she is of the women's game and dismissive, however, whatever you want to say about Camila Giorgi, I have always respected the fuck out of the way she goes about her business. In that she's coming to play her game, and if her game is on point, she'll win a lot of points. And if it's not, she will just keep on moving. The speed with which she plays on court is the same speed with which she'll haul her ass off the court when she loses.
And flee her creditors. We had an episode, I think, in 2016 called Doubles, Debtors, and Divas.
Yes.
If you want to know more about Georgie, go there.
Those were probably...
I wonder if you respected her on that episode, like you said you did.
I just said, in spite of all that stuff.
Okay.
I referenced all that stuff. We were clearly a lot more messy back in 2016.
Well,
the first 2 years of the show.
So if you've been around since then and still put up with us, thanks.
But to our point earlier with Diminar, somebody who is so slight, able to generate so much power.
Right.
We also, in Linz, I want to make special mention here, we are perhaps seeing the emancipation of Petko.
Did she need emancipating?
Listen, in this new cycle of Mariah music, hashtag MC15, I am going to draw on the emancipation of Mimi in this analogy here. Petko has made 3 semifinals now on the year. She was floundering outside the top 100. She's been very much a part of the Racket Magazine podcast, writing for Racket Mag, also writing for German newspapers, doing so many things outside of tennis. And, you know, like when that stuff kind of dovetails with a slide in the rankings, you kind of think, well, this is kind of precarious.
Setting the table kind of for the next phase.
But she's out here since DC, defending semifinal points in DC, was able to defend those. And then she goes on to make 2 more semifinals in Guangzhou, and then now again in Linz. Was up 6-11 on serve in the second set against Alexandrova, and then it just went to shit.
Ooh.
Lost the second set 4-6, and then love 6 in the third. One of those bizarre bagel bookend 3-set matches where you're on the wrong side of it. But kudos to her. She's now won her first match this week, and she's back inside the top 70. If she were to somehow win this week, she'll be back inside the top 50, and who knows?
Over at the Tianjin Slam, Maria Sharapova defending champion, as you all know. Caroline Garcia has sort of made up for some of those lost points during this Asian swing and won, beating Pliskova in the final.
If she had 4 handfuls of points, she made up 1 handful.
Yeah, I mean, it was damage control. Pliskova, for her part, keeps winning this year, and I'm, you know, as bad-minded as I am, I'm hoping that she doesn't make Singapore because she's just annoyed me to no end. But it looks like she's going to make it. Like, she's got a pretty good shot.
Even so, if she doesn't qualify, who knows if Simona will show up.
That's true. That is very true.
Over in Beijing, Caroline Wozniacka won her 3rd title of the year. She goes through spurts of, since winning Australia and getting that Grand Slam at long last, it seems like she goes through periods of consistent to not great results, and then terrible results, and then she'll pop up and like, I did that,
I
then go off.
She was kind of uninterested, to be honest.
Well, she's out here spending as much time as possible with her fiance. Like when that stuff is new, that's a priority, right? Like that makes sense. She's always on social media posting up with her nieces and nephews. She seems to be enjoying family time a lot, and still able to come out here and win a big title like Beijing. So kudos to her. And with that title, she's now again inserted herself into the Player of the Year category, like full-fledged.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like
because she's
outside of those, though, the rest of her year has been so unimpressive that it does her a bit of a disservice.
It's been consistent in spots. But you throw in Singapore and then what? How would you deny her?
Singapore was last year, though.
If she defends, she's going to be there again.
Well, if she defends, that's a whole different story, yeah. Unfortunately, the WTA does their voting before Singapore even happens, which is confounding to me.
That's a very good caveat.
We're talking about our Player of the Year, but the official WTA Player of the Year doesn't take into account this year's finals results, which to me, I feel that they're devaluing their end-of-the-year tournament. If they really view it as kind of a 5th slam, why does it not have a huge stake in who's the Player of the Year? And last year it did. It really affected, Venus got to the final. People thought that Venus was in the running for Player of the Year last year. Caroline Wozniacki won. Yeah,
but those folks who are not beholden to winning a slam as being the ultimate criterion for winning Player of the Year were like, well, hey, look what Venus just did.
Right.
Again, on one of the slowest ass courts in history.
Lord.
Wozniacki beats Sevastova in the final. Kudos to Sevastova, who is firmly entrenched as a top 15 player
Yeah,
now.
we'll make Shanghai again.
Question for you, James. We just talked a bit about all the stuff that Wozniacki's been doing all year. Where was Caroline Wozniacki Esquire when Serena needed her? About 2 months ago. A month and a half? Not even.
Where were you when I needed you? Did you know you just quoted a Lauryn Hill song? But indeed, where was she? Because Vika Azarenka was out here doing Instagram stories, monologues, soliloquies to anyone who would listen about how messed up she thought the whole thing was.
Perhaps Wozniacki was not granted godmother. Perhaps that's what it was. There's a rift. Who knows? I'm being facetious. But there was only one, to my mind, instance where on social media there was some interaction with the whole US Open thing where she liked a tweet from Marty Fish saying, "Come on, like this is ridiculous."
Oh, okay.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'm not going to go
And then it
in.
was back to swim, SI swimsuit shoots. It was
Elle Magazine.
back to nieces and nephews and sunshine and rainbows. I don't know. I just felt like she could have used her skills to better use. All that lawyering that she's been doing on court for the past half a decade, it could have really helped the public discourse.
I'm not going to go off on Caroline here because I know we're being a little bit facetious. But
I'm being
I
an
will
ass.
say,
I'm being an asshole.
I will say,
I will own that.
if you are my friend, I am going to ride for you in that situation. And I will probably make myself look like an ass.
Don't do that. Don't say that, because it absolutely depends on whether you firmly believe that person's right. You're not going to be out here acting a fool if you think that the person really did wrong.
I would do that for you, though.
Even if I did
If
wrong?
you were wrong, yes. We're on the same team.
No, see, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Well, you have witnessed a betrayal tonight.
No, like
All of you.
if something is that egregious, you know where your morals are. Like if you step that far out of line, I should hope that you would not do something at this point, 11 years in, to where I'd be so shocked that you
couldn't defend it.
Oh, she went that way? Like that make me question things. But if you're
Right.
like with somebody like earlier on, yeah, if you go something that's so antithetical to who you are as a person, like that's gonna.
No, I think the situation is like, oh, he really came that way. I mean, I wouldn't have handled it that way, but I'm still going to go to bat for you.
Sure.
You
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there is something to be said about investing in tournaments where you want the sport to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Li Na and Zheng Ye, Kamiko Date, etc. as pioneers of Asian tennis, and it is really coming home to roost now. We saw a lot of Asian players excel at these tournaments and beat top players from all over the world.
Still not necessarily reflected in attendance.
Right, that's still the thing that seems to be missing.
But this has to be one step. People always say, well, how do you fix that? This has to be one step. Don't you think, to fix that?
I think the fans who are there are very serious. They're diehard. They know what they're talking about. They also sort of interact in a world that we don't see. You know, in Chinese social media networks that we don't have access to, for example, in languages we don't understand.
What is it, Weibo?
Yeah. Like
That's like their Facebook,
in China,
right?
they're not using Facebook and Twitter, right? Like, so all this fandom happens outside of where we can kind of access it. But, you know, Wang Chong, we talked about, has made the semifinal or better at all 5 tournaments since the US Open. Crazy. She won Guangzhou, and she lost the final in Hong Kong. She also won Nanchang earlier in the year, and she won the gold medal at the Asian Games. So these past 4 months for her have been wild.
Naomi Osaka left the US Open with the trophy, with all that she had to deal with. Got on her sponsored plane to collect more sponsorship money in Asia, and still managed to make the final in Tokyo, losing to Pliskova, and then the semifinals in Beijing, losing to Sevastova. Like, that is quite the remarkable return after all that she went through.
Kei Nishikori, I feel like, is well and truly back. He made the final in Tokyo, losing to Medvedev. He's made a few finals this year, made a big one on clay. I think he's, the body is always an issue with him. is stringing together results. But it seems like he's recovered from the wrist thing last year.
Remember his name, Nishioka. We just talked about him on the last episode. He won Shenzhen. Zhang Shuai made the semifinals in Hong Kong in singles, and then won doubles with Stosur.
Mm-hmm.
Stosur out here hashtagging the hell out of that.
Winners are grinners.
Winners are grinners, not done yet, more to come. Like, girl, bring it.
Right.
We want to see you out here for a long time. I'm curious to see if Sam Stosur, should her singles results totally fall off the cliff, if she'll revert to being a double specialist like she was at the start of her career.
Yeah.
I think she could have the potential to bookend her career with doubles glory.
I would love that.
What's left on the agenda? We've got an etc. section, and then we're going to maybe talk about Zhuhai a little bit. And then we're going to finish with things we like and things we dislike.
Okay. Singapore qualification. Sloane Stephens has officially qualified. It would have been egregious if she didn't after a year like this.
Mm-hmm.
She, just by entering the draw in Moscow, she qualifies regardless of how she plays there. Svitolina is not playing in Moscow, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a chance to qualify. But Pliskova and Bertens also have a chance. That's for the 7th and 8th spots between those three.
Svitolina was unable to get into the Moscow draw via wildcard because it had already been issued. And so when that happened, Sloane, by nature of points and just the way the system works, was able to qualify by default.
Right.
So those three are left for the final two places. We've already said that still not a given that Simona Halep will be healthy enough to play in Singapore. So we may see those, alternate spots come into play this year.
Right. Because there's a few that are really close. But you mentioned Simona. She flew to Moscow. She was preparing to play. She's been training and doing exercises on her back to try to recover from this herniated disc. She knows that it's not going to require surgery, but unfortunately she wasn't ready to compete in Moscow this week. She tried to be there and wanted to get some matches under her belt, but as a result, Singapore is still in doubt. Definitely at risk.
You have this noted here. There's being quote-unquote fighter girl, and then there's being reckless.
Yeah, and I don't want to kick someone while she's down, but...
She's already qualified. She could have just taken the time off and just tried to show up in Singapore.
Yeah, herniated disc is serious, and it's not something you want to make worse. It can be a very debilitating injury for tennis players if you don't care for it properly. It can be something that creeps up on you again and again if you don't fully recover. It doesn't seem worth it to me.
Perhaps what's at play is a specter of this year-end. Well, she has the year-end number one locked up, but this player of the year, that would be the absolute cherry on top of her season. Like, if she's able to win Singapore and lock that up without a doubt. She's a player that there's always some doubt surrounding her achievements throughout her career. And this was the year making the final in Australia, then winning the French Open, stringing together arguably the most consistent season of any of the players on the WTA Tour. She may feel hard done that this was her time to put all those doubts to rest.
Right.
So I think perhaps that's at play. Who is just, again, the most unfortunate soul, a poor, unfortunate soul, Juan Martín del Potro. The most innocuous-looking injury forces him to retire against Borna Coric. And then come to find out it's a broken kneecap, a fractured kneecap. My God.
So without surgery, apparently the best case recovery scenario is about 6 weeks, but it can take anywhere up to like 3, 4, 5 months to fully recover. We've got confirmation that he doesn't need surgery for it, but could this guy go through one more major injury? And it's pretty universal, across tennis, people are just heartbroken for him because of what he's been through.
Aga Radwanska unveiled her Aga apartments in Krakow. You can stay at these fancy apartment suites that are designed, regaled with paraphernalia from Radwanska's career in these tennis-themed apartments. Will we be going? Will you be taking me to Krakow to stay in one of these apartments?
No, thank you. But I will say I love that these girls are realizing their sort of star power and they're creating avenues for themselves after they're done with tennis. The Williams sisters were the trailblazers in this area, I will say.
It's cute. I'm here
It's
for
cute.
it.
And make money on what you've achieved.
Shanghai happens, I believe, the week after Singapore. And we're in, like, what, year 4 or 5 of this tournament now. And it's starting to take some hold.
It is actually a cute little event. I'm going to be honest.
To the extent that we know about it and we are looking forward to it, and we know that the field is going to be stellar, because with the depth on the women's tour, literally anybody can win.
I'm not going to lie. I have enjoyed Shanghai more than Singapore quite a bit.
Yes.
So how it works here is the top 11 players who are not in Singapore qualify, plus the 12th spot will go to the 12th player or a wild card. So I think in this scenario it makes sense to pick a wild card. Wang Chong, people have been floating her name because she's very close to qualifying, but she's not technically the 12th player who didn't make Singapore. But right now, the field as it stands, so for that 9th spot, it could be between Bertens, Pliskova, and Svitolina.
For Singapore.
Yes, so two
For
of them
Singapore
will make
and
Singapore.
Shanghai, yeah.
Right. But one of them will make Shanghai as well. They may or may not choose to play. Then
They'll have to make the decision to... Well, they could do...
could
do both.
You can be an alternate, actually, and play Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
And then there's Sabalenka, Elise Mertens, Sevastova, Kazatkina, Madison Keys, Yulia Gergis, Muguruza. Muguruza, who is 17th in the race, who has 2 majors to her name. It is shocking to see her that low.
She is coming on strong, though. This
Yes.
could be a flourish to her season. At long last, some consistency for her achieved this time on the Asian swing.
And then Garcia, Barty, and Ostapenko. Barty was the semifinals last year in Shanghai. Gergis is the defending champion. Coco Vandeweghe, who was the runner-up, is not even close to qualifying this year.
Her ranking.
Unfortunately,
Lord.
Venus, who's the runner-up in Singapore, is not even close to qualifying to either event.
Venus will end the year probably around 40. Somewhere in that vicinity. It's not entirely tragic, but it's not good.
But there's even some intrigue in the Shanghai alternate qualifying, because for that final spot, Kontaveit is in the running because Moscow counts toward it. CSN, if she wins Luxembourg, would qualify. And Wang Chong is kind of the obvious wildcard pick, especially because it's in China.
And she's been playing so well. It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
In the past, it's been Sai. They've tended to give a wild card to a Chinese player. It makes perfect sense. Like, this is the kind of thing that if she does not qualify and she does not get the wild card, it will be one of the...
Be like, what are you doing?
The biggest fuck-ups in the history of all sports. Sport management. Like, it will be taught in schools.
Not to be, like, dramatic or anything.
Bit of news today, Angelique Kerber and Wim Fissette are no longer a team.
Yeah. There has been a history of Fissette getting great results with a player and splitting up soon after. We clearly don't know what it's about.
We're told that it's a difference in opinion about the direction of what's to come.
Right.
And Angelique is going to make an announcement in Singapore. So we're told, based on the translated tweets that I saw today.
Maybe she'll be working with Richard Williams. Somebody else who knows how to beat Williams sisters.
Oh my god.
Because Wim Fissette sure knows how.
Things we like and things we dislike. I'm going to let you take the mic first. It's not like we're actually handing the mic over to each other. It's a stationary mic with a pop filter that we're both sitting behind. But figuratively, you can take the mic and go first with things you like, because you told me, you trumped this up before the episode.
Yeah.
That, oh, did you know? Because let me tell you, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. One of James's favorite things to do is to Did You Know Me? Like, at least 2 or 3 times a day, he's like, did you know this? And it's usually something like really mundane and boring.
It's not.
That I have to pretend to be interested
is.
in. I'm just saying, this is my truth. And so you caught yourself and you're like, oh, did you know? And like, no, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it for the show. And so here you are.
Like, for example, did you know that all of the planets in the solar system could fit between the Earth and the Moon?
Did you know?
I bet you didn't know that.
Did you know that the Sears catalog was groundbreaking in giving African Americans access to buying goods, because the store owner model before would have them like waiting on white folks to be served to infinity before they were served. And so being able to order stuff from home, mail order, it opened up a whole new world. This I learned last night.
I did not, but I read that thread on Twitter.
See, I did you know you, but you knew.
But
so
I like gaining new knowledge.
You
so
just
that's
know
fine with me.
everything,
You
so
don't.
there's nothing I can teach you. Essentially,
So anyway, things we like.
I did teach you how to butcher a chicken tonight, and you did really well.
Thank you. Thanks.
All the joints were perfectly severed.
Oh God, there was blood.
Tell me.
Anyway, so Riverdale is back, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably my favorite show on TV right now. It is beautiful trash, but the really exciting thing is that they're going to have an episode set in the 90s, and the actors are going to be playing their parents.
What?
Yeah. So,
Oh.
for example, Betty's mom is played by Machen Amick, who was a 90s queen.
At the time,
played
she was
Shelley on Twin
Yeah,
Peaks.
mhm.
The actress who plays her, Lily Reinhart, will be basically dressing up as Machen Amick in like definitely a 90s grunge kind of look with that long curly hair that she used to have. The resemblance is uncanny.
Oh my god. So you mean to tell me Archie Andrews, AJ Kappa, is going to be playing Dylan on 90210?
Yeah. Gird your loins.
My loins
ready.
are girded every week for Riverdale, because I know I've never seen a show know its audience so well. They know that certain things are expected. And with that premiere last week, it was astonishing that so much flesh could be shown from the people that we wanted shown.
The show is so trashy.
Can you imagine
But it's
if-
so... I don't even... Like, it's so stylized, and there's just things about it that prevent it from verging into total garbage. There is really a clear, I feel, visual and artistic vision
Okay.
for the show. Even if the plot makes no sense.
Meanwhile, at least 3 times a season, you're like, this is the most terrible shit on TV. You go in like total polar
Yeah, but
opposites.
like, would I ever stop watching it?
Can you imagine if this show was made on HBO or Netflix? Like the potential.
No, you
for-
need a little bit of restraint, I feel, because it could verge into garbage.
Yeah, I would take a little bit of garbage if that were an offer. Things I like, this new show on Netflix, Elite.
Elite.
I'm giving you the Spanish.
It's just elite.
No.
Don't be pretentious.
It's Elite. It's a Spanish language television show.
Is that a word in Spanish?
It is, yes.
Okay.
The accent is on the first E.
I think that's French.
No, I'm telling you. I found it one night while you were sleeping, and then you ended up watching the entire series in one day.
In one day.
In one day.
Literally. 8 episodes.
There's this wave of Spanish language programming coming on Netflix, descended from cable girls, Las Chicas del Cable.
Is that an English word like that was adapted into Spanish?
I
Is it
don't know.
Las Chicas del Cable?
I don't know. I say cable because that's how it should be pronounced. But I also last night started La Casa de las Flores, which is a Mexican TV show that's now on Netflix, just debuted. And I'm sitting there watching this show, and I don't know if y'all know this. You know this for sure. One of my OG boos and all-time faves, Gal Garcia Bernal. Oh my lord, you would be left in an instant. And you wouldn't even be mad about it.
Same.
You wouldn't it would be just the way the cookie crumbled. I'm watching this show and this dude is on it, and I'm like, he is giving me Gael realness right now. And of course I look him up. Hello, Gael's brother. Gael's brother is out here on this show, La Casa de las Flores, in various stages of
House
undress.
of Flowers.
House of Flowers. The name plays a very important part. I'm through 3 episodes.
Okay.
Because there's a big House of Flowers and there's a small House of Flowers.
Is it like a greenhouse?
You just gotta watch it. It's manageable. It's 30 to 33 minutes every episode. It's lighthearted, but the whole premise of it, there's this family that they have made their money on a flower shop. And so their house, there's this big sign, La Casa de las Flores. And one day, the very first episode, the pilot, everything comes crashing down because drama unfolds, secrets are told, and life as they know it is no longer. And I mean, I can't tell you it's going to be the greatest thing ever. It has an 8 out of 10 on IMDb, which for most shows is like stellar. Because IMDb people, they are terrible. They rate good shows poorly. So if something is 8 out of 10 on IMDb, that's usually a barometer for me to be like, that's worth watching. But for now, I'm really enjoying it. And I am enjoying getting another Bernal.
For things we dislike, this is really things you dislike. You dislike the season autumn.
Otherwise known as fall.
Uh-huh.
Why does it have two names?
Do is call.
Why does it have two names?
Because,
let's start with that.
Because the English language has a lot of different influences. Linguistic, like we take words from a lot of different languages.
Does winter have two names? Does summer have two names? Does spring have two names? What is special about fall/autumn? Did you know me? Tell me.
So that's like one.
Do I know?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's one of the many things about fall that you don't like.
That's a new one. I hadn't even thought about that. I was ready with this long laundry list, and then that just came to mind.
So you tell me why you don't like it, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll tell you why you think you're right, but you're really
okay.
wrong. Okay. Listen, fall. I grew up in Jamaica, so like I had the worst of the weather change was hurricane season. You know, like you had to go stock up on canned goods and hope that your house didn't get blown down.
And we know in your lifetime, you only got the one big one because Jamaicans pray a lot.
I didn't say that.
And God has spared Jamaica since, what was it, Camille? Gilbert.
I didn't say that. That was 1988. But there were other hurricanes, but none quite as big as Gilbert in my lifetime. It even spawned a popular song. Water come in my room, we sweep out some with the broom, and the little dog laugh to see such fun, and the dish run away with the spoon. Anyway, so I'm now in Canada and the US for the last 15 years. 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 years. And snow was cute to start. I remember being in the dining hall of Ithaca College the very first time snow started to fall. And I was seated by a window, and I was like, oh my God, this is like October or something. And snowdrops are falling. Snowflakes. And it was quite the escape I had to make to get out of this dining hall. It had this large staircase. And I finally get outside and it was done. It was just a little, it's like, oh my God,
don't worry.
God, I'll never see it again. And within 2 weeks, I was like totally over it. But fall just seems so unnecessary. It's a reminder, it's a tease. Because you're coming off summer, and then in no time you have this in-between weather that you can't really do shit. Like, you can layer and look cute. That's one plus. I'll give it that. You can wear some things without having to be, burdened by heavy winter wear. Yeah,
you can wear some cute cardigans.
Yeah, some sweaters. You don't have to be sweating if you're outside in the winter. That's about it. Otherwise, like, you're getting terrible weather. You're getting, if you're listening in the US or whoever uses Fahrenheit, you're getting like 40 to 60 degree weather that quite literally changes 20 degrees by the day. You're getting rain every day. You open the door and you never know. In our case, to take the dog out, constantly have to be looking at the weather app to see if you need the umbrella to take the fucking dog out. Like, the dog needs to go out 3-4 times a day. Like, that's a problem. The weather change, you're constantly avoiding being sick, getting the flu. Like, it's a terrible, or cold, it's a terrible time of year for that.
But let me tell you, these people on my commute every morning coughing, I swear, half of them have a serious pandemic that will kill us all.
I don't drink hot drinks. I spent like maybe a year of my life while I was writing my master's thesis in the Starbucks that you worked at, drinking coffee. Literally for a year I drank coffee. So I don't drink hot drinks. I don't give a fuck about pumpkin spice lattes or any of these fanciful drinks that Starbucks or whoever wants to throw out there. I'm not the market for that. I do not like Halloween. I'd be into Halloween if it were warm weather. Like, all the outfits that I'd want to wear, I'm not saying they'd be scantily clad. I'm just saying, like, what if I want to go as Bjorn Borg? Do I have to wear a coat? Do I then have to
wear his warm-ups?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, do I have to then expose myself to the elements of whatever October 31st feels like being? Like that is not my bag.
Well, I'll tell you, growing up, we typically had to wear like a winter jacket either underneath or above our costumes, which was a total bummer. There were a lot of Halloweens that were like freezing rain, not quite snowing. That's what you expect in upstate New York. But
Am I making my case here? There's a lot to dislike about fall.
Yeah, but fall is amazing. Like you said, you get to wear nice clothes and cardigans and sweaters and stuff. I prefer them to summer clothes.
Where are the nice clothes?
Pretty.
Where are the nice clothes that you're wearing right now? All I'm hearing is bitching that you need to buy new clothes.
So I don't.
But you don't go to the mall. You can't find what you want, and so you get like 20 days of fall. 3 of them are nice weather, and then by the time you actually get the shit, you can't wear it.
Okay, like everyone is sick of your complaining about fall.
One more thing. I get aesthetically that fall is beautiful. Like we went to school in upstate New York at Ithaca College. When the trees change, leaves fall, and that orange to red hue that's just adorning the trees and the ground. It's gorgeous. But are you getting that with a 55-degree day with no wind and no rain?
Oh my God.
I'm done.
Oh, really?
I'm done.
Not everyone got to grow up in the tropics, where the weather was mostly predictable. We take what we can get, okay?
Okay. Is there anything you want to say in support of fall?
No.
Have I been that much of a Debbie Downer?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I do not apologize.
Obviously. That would be out of character.
Before we go, we've talked privately about maybe having a body serve get-together with folks who live in Toronto, because we have quite a few listeners who live in the area. I don't know if that's something that folks would want to do. Like, we could go to an establishment and, have drinks.
If you're old enough.
So let us know. Tweet us, email us, thebodyserve@gmail.com. However you're able to get in touch with us. If you are in the area and it's something you'd be game for, let us know. We might just actually do it. Till then, thanks for listening. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Twitter at tennis_John.
And I'm James. I'm at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's.
And we're at The Body Serve on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening. Find us on iTunes, write us a review, and we'll be back soon.
Till next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.